Bismillahirrahmanirrahim, and welcome to a new course or a new video in summary translation course. Today's video will be about media translation, and we will do the following in this video. First, talk about the definition of media and its forms and types. Then we will discuss how does stylistics affect translation in general and media translation and specific. And finally, discuss some examples of media translation. Media is a plural of medium, which refers to any kind of format used to convey information. And mass media refers to those types of media that are designed to reach large numbers of people, a means of public communication reaching a large audience. Here are some types of mass media. We have television, radio, film and video, print media such as newspapers, magazines, photography, and electronic. Now let's talk about stylistics and translation. And one may ask, is it important for me as a translation student to know about the stylistics? And the answer is yes, it's very important to you. Do you know why? Because in translating you have to take into consideration the differences between each language stylistics. Your style differs from your friend's style, and each one of us has his or her own style, and the same case in translation and languages. Each language has its own style, so be careful when you translate to follow each style of each language, or to follow the style of each language. Some of the difference between the two styles can be summarized as in the following. First, Arabic style tends to scatter the similar thoughts, while English style tends to gather them together. Let's see this example. The government and people of Palestine. Now, English style uses the word people directly after the word government, while Arabic translation of the sentence is حكومة فلسطين وشعبها, not حكومة وشعب فلسطين. Now one may ask, is حكومة وشعب فلسطين wrong? The answer is no, it's not wrong, but let's follow the styles the Arabic prefers, and the same case in English. So let's follow each language stylistics so to be as if you are writing in the native language you are translating to. So again here, Arabic refers to scatter the similar thoughts, English tends to gather them. Another point, in Arabic the heavy elements comes first. By contrast, English style puts it later. So in a sentence like, let's read this example. In his speech on the state of affairs in the Gaza Strip, the information minister declared. Let's see the Arabic translation. صرح وزير الإعلام في حديث له عن أحوال الصحافة في قطاع غزة بأنه but not في حديث له عن أحوال الصحافة في قطاع غزة صرح وزير الإعلام بأنه. So if you notice, Arabic starts with the main verb صرح, then the main or the agent الفاعل وزير الإعلام, not talking about or starting with the less important information, which English refers to do. So again, Arabic starts with the most important information, English delays this important information to the end of the sentence. Arabic style uses the conjunction wa or au before each element of the sentence. English style, on the other hand, does not use this conjunction except before the final element. So let's see this example. اشترى علي كتابا ودفاتر وأقلام حبر وأقلام رصاص. But the English translation is Ali bought books, copy books, pens and pencils. The position of adverbs and adjective in English and Arabic. Let's discuss this point. In English, the adverbs comes between the auxiliary and the main verb. But in Arabic, it takes other positions. Consider the problem. Let's see this example. The problem has soon ended. What is the adverb here? Soon, right? It comes between the auxiliary has and the main verb ended. But we cannot do the same thing in Arabic. So in Arabic, it's said that سرعان ما انتهت المشكلة. We cannot say or for example, even we do not have like an auxiliary verb in the Arabic sentence. So again here, be careful about the position of adverbs and adjectives in English and Arabic. So here we translate it as سرعان ما انتهت المشكلة. I'm gonna talk about this important point. Another feature of English is that it easily accepts a new vocabulary, even those which are colloquial. So we sometimes find ourselves obliged to renovate our dictionaries from time to time. All of you know Google website, right? Google.com. But suppose that you're reading a novel and you come up with new words, then you say, I will Google it. I will Google this new word. Google here is a new invented word which means search. بمعنى بدي أبحث عن هذه الكلمة. But the question, what about English Arabic language? Does it accept new words? Okay. Arabic, on the other hand, does not have the same rate in accepting a new vocabulary, which means that English is more tolerant in accepting new vocabs. This matter may be due to the fact that Arabic has a huge number of words. Do you know that the Arabic number of words is 3 times that of English? Okay, so Arabic has huge numbers of words which allows it to convey any meaning or express any situation relaxably. But despite this, flexibility is an essential feature of Arabic. It accepts any new vocabulary, especially jargons. Many words enter Arabic and are used frequently as if they are Arabic regional word. English style is characterized as the multi-use of complex sentences. English has one complex sentence with 2 or more simple sentences. Let's see this example. He visited Egypt so that he might see the pyramids and enjoy them. English prefers the frequent use of passive even when the subject is known. So for example, the building was designed by a famous designer who was killed in an accident. An English sentence begins with a subject followed by a finite verb. It says English word order is subject verb order, while standard Arabic word order is verb subject object. Now, by contrast, Arabic style does not use the passive except when the subject is unknown. So we say قتل الرجل, for the man was killed. Arabic sentence usually begins with the verb followed by the subject plus the object. قرأ أحمد الدرس. And Arabic is a verb-drop language. Therefore, the subject can be dropped and referred to syntactically as a small verb. As in, he went to school. ذهب إلى المدرسة. We say in Arabic that الفاعل ضمير مستتر. It's not overtly written. Let's discuss style and errors in translation from Arabic into English. Let's start by grammatical errors in translation. First, the use of infinitive. It's preferable to start with a suitable indefinite infinitive بمعنى مصدر نكرة when translating sentences which start with an indefinite infinitive. For instance, in the following sentence, a just peace will bring prosperity to the region. It's preferable to say إن تحقيق أو إقرار أو إحلال أو إقامة. يعني all those are possible translations. إن تحقيق سلام عادل سيجلب الازدهار إلى المنطقة. Now what happens here؟ إيش اللي صار عندي؟ هنا I use مصدر نكرة instead of إن سلاما عادلا سيجلب الازدهار إلى المنطقة. So I use indefinite article, indefinite infinitive, which is تحقيق. إن تحقيق سلام عادل سيجلب الازدهار إلى المنطقة. Rather than saying إن سلاما عادلا سيجلب الازدهار إلى المنطقة. The use of relative pronoun. The relative pronoun is used after both definite and indefinite nouns in English, but should be used only after definite nouns in Arabic. Thus, a solution which is based on justice is a permanent one should be translated into Arabic as إن حلا يقوم على العدل حل دائم. We do not translate the relative pronoun or the relative which because حلا is indefinite, right? غير معرفة بالتعريف نكرة. Different prepositions. Some languages such as English permit consecutive verbs and nouns to be followed by different prepositions. For example, he expressed his approval of and support for the resolution. This way of expression is not allowed in Arabic. We cannot say أعرب عن موافقته على يعني موافقته على وتأييده للقرار. We cannot say موافقته على وتأييده للقرار. So be careful about this, okay? We cannot say again موافقته على تأييده للقرار. Because the English permits consecutive verbs and nouns to be followed by different prepositions, right? But Arabic do not permit. In such a case, the noun governed by the prepositions should be given after the first part. The structure should be as follows: أعرب عن موافقته على القرار وتأييده له. So we cannot say موافقته على وتأييده له as what? As in English. However, there is an alternative way to deal with this matter, namely the use of two infinitives which are followed by the same preposition. Thus, it could be said أعرب عن إقراره وتأييده للقرار. Not أعرب عن إقراره على وتأييده للقرار, with إقرار replacing موافقة. Additionally, it's incorrect in Arabic to have two consecutive verbs, only one of which requires a preposition. Thus, it could not be said نحن نقول وندعو إلى ذلك. It's not appropriate or not correct. Do you know why? Because we have two consecutive verbs and just one of which requires a preposition. So we say and call for that. The correct sentence should be نحن نقول ذلك وندعو إليه. نحن نقول ذلك وندعو إليه. Now the two consecutive verbs نقول وندعو, but not the two verbs need a preposition, just one verb. So we cannot say again نحن نقول وندعو إلى ذلك, because نقول does not need the preposition إلى, just ندعو which needs the preposition إلى. So again we say or translate it as نحن نقول ذلك وندعو إليه. The use of a present perfect, and this is very important. The present perfect tense should not always be translated in the past tense in Arabic, especially when making a reference to positions, opinions, or situations, as the present perfect has a present connotation which might be lost when translated in the past tense in Arabic. For example, we have supported the struggle against poverty. It's preferable to translate it as نؤيد الكفاح ضد الفقر rather than أيدنا الكفاح ضد الفقر, because the last form might be taken to mean a past tense, whereas the speaker points at the continuing present. And here one may ask, so how can we choose to translate the present perfect into like past or present? You have to understand the meaning to decide what the appropriate tense is or should be. Translation of such. The word such should not always be translated as مثل. For example, in the sentence, let's adopt such measures as will ensure peace. The correct translation is فلنعتمد من التدابير ما يكفل السلام. If you notice, we delete the translation of such. We do not translate such here. Okay, the use of comma, I think, discussed it. Here, for example, it's correct, it's not correct. Like in Arabic, to talk or when you want to list some words, to say المدونون كما المترجمون والمترجمون الشفويين following the English stylistics. No, you have to say المدونون والمترجمون الشفويون. Okay? ضد, the use of ضد. Translation of against as ضد should be avoided if the word على expresses the intended meaning. For example, to exert pressure against a person or to commit aggression against a neighboring state should be translated as ممارسة الضغط على الشخص or ارتكاب عدوان على دولة مجاورة. If you notice, we did not say ضد. Do you know why? Why we do not translate it ضد? Because it's already like, if you notice, the intended meaning is clear without using what? ضد. الضغط على, not الضغط ضد. Again, because the word الضغط and عدوان already expresses the intended meaning, so there is no need again to translate the as against. You can say الضغط على أو عدوان على. Now let's talk about the use of من خلال and be. What do you think it's more or which is better to use? من خلال or be? Now excessive use of من خلال should be avoided, especially where the instrumental letter ba could be used instead. For example, it is achieving its object or objective through diplomacy. Now what's the best translation for through? Okay, the preferred translation should be يمكن إنه يحقق هدفه بالدبلوماسية أو يحقق هدفه بالدبلوماسية. It's better than saying يحقق هدفه من خلال الدبلوماسية. Again, it's better to say إنه أو يحقق هدفه not من خلال بالدبلوماسية. Or the second example, this can be achieved through positive action. يمكن تحقيق ذلك بالعمل الإيجابي instead of saying من خلال العمل الإيجابي. Use of هو, where the subject and the predicate of nominal sentences are in the definite form, insertion of an appropriate pronoun between the subject and the predicate is needed. For example, the translation of the sentence "the book is the production of his thought" would be الكتاب هو نتاج فكره. So when the subject is definite معرف and the predicate is indefinite, there is no need to insert such a pronoun. Thus, the translation of the article is boring. We say المقال ممل, not المقال هو ممل. طب ممكن حد يحكي لي هي نتاج فكره معرف؟ يس, لأنها مضاف ومضاف إليه أصبحت معرفة. So when we have like the subject and the predicate and they are definite, كونوا الاثنين معرفين, it's better to use هو. الكتاب هو نتاج فكره. But المقال ممل, here we have the predicate which is indefinite, so there's no need to say المقال هو ممل, but say المقال ممل. Now let's talk about specification التمييز. In English sentences where specification is used, such as he did this in disregard or contempt of that. Now it's not correct to translate it as فعل ذلك في تجاهل أو في احتقار لذلك. No. Now the correct translation would be to use the تمييز. نستخدم تمييز and say فعل ذلك تجاهلا أو احتقارا لذلك, not literally and to say في تجاهل أو في احتقار. Okay? The translation of with. Translation of with always into مع would be erroneous. There are cases where with should be translated as be. For example, the sentence with common efforts we shall achieve our objective. Now this is the sentence. The best translation is ببذل الجهود المشتركة سنحقق هدفنا. So with is translated into be. Okay? With is used in other meanings including بفضل, نظرا إلى, بالاقتران ب, if, بالاشتراك مع, بمواكبة, لكون, etc. Let's talk about the translation of only. In many cases, it's preferable not to translate only as فقط. Rather, the structure ليست إلا should be used. For example, it's preferable to have maintained for local consumption only. To translate it as ليست مصانة إلا للاستهلاك المحلي. and not مصانع الاستهلاك المحلي فقط. So here we add ليست إلا. Okay? Translation of free. Needless to say that it's erroneous to translate the word free always as حر. دائما free as حر. So what are the other possible answers? Free also has the meaning of خال يعني. For example, the translation of the phrase a zone free of weapons should be منطقة خالية من الأسلحة وليست منطقة حرة من الأسلحة. So the phrase free of charge is translated as بالمجان. Free of charge بالمجان.